Do you have a problem with putting things off? Could be education, school stuff, could be professional, could be your own self-improvement tasks. Are you maybe watching this video because you're putting something off right now? Well, then I'd like to help you out. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 techniques, evidence-based psychological techniques to help you procrastinate less. Technique number 1, change your mindset. A lot of us, when we're thinking about the things we're working on, when we're thinking about our job or our school or whatever else, we think of it in terms of have-tos. I have to go to school. I have to do my homework. I have to go to work. I have to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is. I'm going to encourage you to reconsider this notion of the have to and to adopt the notion that you don't have to do anything. Everything in your life is a matter of things I want to do in order to achieve a certain consequence. So for example, you might argue at a very base level, I have to breathe. But rather, it's a notion of, I want to breathe because I want to keep living. I want to do all the things I want to do with my life. That requires breathing, therefore I'm going to keep on breathing. When I'm going to school, I'm not going to school because I have to. I'm going to school because I want to learn skills to make my life better. I want to avoid the negative social ostracism that not going to school might cause me, right? There may be external forces at play that we're not particularly fond of that are compelling us to do things, but we still have the capacity to do a cost-benefit analysis. We are still acting within our own selfish interests here. So when I'm deciding whether to clean my room, it's not that I have to clean my room, it's I want to clean my room because I don't want to live in filth. I don't want anybody who comes over to visit my room to be grossed out by how I live. And when you think of it in these ways, when you're thinking of it as, I want to do this because I have a goal, I have a selfish desire that I want to fulfill, procrastination is not nearly as prominent. You no longer have this imaginary external force that is compelling you like a slave to do the things that you don't want to do. You are only doing the things that you want to do, and you have to find exactly what your reasons are for doing it. And by the way, if you find yourself in a situation where you're doing something and you can't find any reason whatsoever why you're doing it, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe that is not something that you should be spending your time and energy towards. Maybe you should direct your efforts elsewhere and assert yourself against whatever force is compelling you to do that thing. Only you can make that judgment, but I would recommend considering that. And then your life is left with nothing but the things that you want to do, your personal goals, your selfish interests, and that is what drives your motivation. Technique number 2, connect with future you. Now you might be saying, Howie, that's all well and good, but I don't care how beneficial cleaning my room is going to be. I know that consciously, but I don't want to do it. It takes work. It's gross. It's dirty. I would rather not do that. I would much rather sit on the couch and eat potato chips. That is way more enjoyable. I totally understand you, okay? But there needs to be a sort of understanding of the things that you want selfishly in the long run versus the things that you want selfishly immediately. There's no doubt a lot of our long-term goals are going to take sacrifice in the immediate term in order to achieve a greater benefit in the long term. Everything from cleaning your apartment to working out to learning a new skill to elevate your job performance or whatever else, right? It takes sacrifice now, and that is legitimately unpleasant. How do you get the motivation to do that long-term stuff when the short term is so unpleasant? Well, what I recommend, and what science has found to be effective, is connect with future you. Really sit down and think about what future you is going to enjoy from this. When you're thinking about the investments and you're thinking about your return on investment, think about how much more relaxed you're going to be when you have this big safety net, this big pile of savings that you can depend on, and you're not constantly living paycheck to paycheck. When you have that, you'll be so much better off. You'll be enjoying your life without that amount of stress that you're currently dealing with now. Maybe it's worth that short-term sacrifice to save a little bit more so you can benefit in the long run. Maybe it's worth the time and energy and minor pain that it takes to lift weights right now in order to be healthier and stronger and better looking in the long term. These are the things you need to think about. And I would recommend you actually sit down with a journal and write a letter to your future self. Future me, I am doing this for you. I'm doing this so you're going to be happier. And here are the ways that you're going to be happier. Make it explicit in your mind. Go ahead and sort of talk to your future self and give your future self a nice sort of imaginary hug. Because you're doing this for you and for them. That can be a big source of motivation when the short-term cost is a little bit higher than you'd like. Technique number 3, surf the urge. So this can be applied in a number of different ways, but in terms of procrastination, it works like this. You're about to do something, but you're feeling that hesitancy. You want to put it off to a later time, right? So instead of putting off to a later time, what you're going to do is you're going to have a little internal dialogue, and you're going to bargain with yourself. You're going to say, you know what? I'm going to do it for 15 minutes. And after those 15 minutes are up, if I don't want to do it anymore, I don't have to. I'm going to stop and I'm going to do whatever fun thing it is that I want to do instead. And hold yourself to that. If you work for 15 minutes, and after those 15 minutes are up, you genuinely do not want to do this unpleasant thing any longer, fine. You don't have to do it anymore. Go ahead and dismiss yourself. You'll try to tackle it again another time. And this doesn't work only for procrastination, by the way. This can work for stopping yourself from doing something. So for example, if you're trying to do a diet and you're having this massive craving for that bag of chips or a slice of cake or whatever else it is, have a conversation with yourself. You know what? I am going to hold off for 15 minutes. And after those 15 minutes are up, if I still have this craving, I'm going to let myself have some of that cake. But if that after those 15 minutes are up, if you don't want it anymore, then don't eat it. Same thing with procrastination. If you're still comfortable continuing to do the work, then continue doing it. And what this is doing is this is taking advantage of literally biochemical things that are happening in our brain. When you have that craving, you actually get a surge of chemicals in your brain that are causing you to feel that craving. Once those 15 minutes have passed, a lot of those chemicals have subsided and sort of dissolved into your entire body, so they're not having the impact that they were at the initial moment. That alone can be reason enough for you to simply not really want it that badly anymore. But there's other psychological elements to it too. So my point is, when you have this craving, or when you're feeling like you don't really want to do something, just have a conversation with yourself. I'll do it for 15 minutes, and after that, I'll stop. Technique number 4. The implementation intention. So when we are talking about things we want to be accomplishing, ideally, we wouldn't be spending a whole lot of willpower to do them. And what I mean by that is think about all of the things in your life that you have done habitually. You wake up at a similar time of day every day. Maybe you even have an unhealthy habit like smoking. Maybe you have a habit about eating the same thing every morning for breakfast. Whatever it is, we are creatures of habit. And when you think about the habits are practically effortless. They're things that you just do automatically. It actually takes effort to not do the things that you have habituated. So what if we could use habits to do our difficult to do things in life, the things that we are doing to improve our lives and improve ourselves? What if we could attach those things to habits? Then all of that would be effortless. You wouldn't need to be putting all of this effort into doing these self-improvement activities. So how do you set habits? Well, the best way to set habits that I know of is a technique called the implementation intention. And all an implementation intention is a when and a then. When X happens, I will do Y. So, for example, let's say I don't floss, and I want to take up flossing. But let's say I already have a habit set up of brushing my teeth. So I will say, when I go to brush my teeth, I will also floss my teeth. Perhaps I want to cut out a habit. Perhaps I want to stop drinking juice because I want to cut the number of calories I'm consuming. So, when I sit down at a table, I will not drink juice. Perhaps I want to improve my health by making sure I'm better hydrated. When I sit down at my desk, I will check to make sure my water bottle is full. all sorts of things like this. And ideally, you want them to be as simple as possible and as small as possible. The bigger the habit is to adopt, the more difficult it's going to be to habituate. And it can take anywhere from a month to an entire year for a habit to become really ingrained in your head. And you want to make sure it is as consistent as possible. You don't want to have a variable habit. Like one really common variable habit that people set is watching time. When it's 2 o'clock, I will do X. Okay, don't do that. We don't have any internal monitor of time, right? We might get sleepy consistently at a particular time, but there's no alarms that go off in our head when it's 2 o'clock. Attach your habit to an actual activity. When I wake up in the morning, I will do push-ups. When I get out of work, I will go to the gym. When I get out of work, I will turn on my dating app and talk to everyone who messaged me. Whatever habit it is that you're trying to set, attach it to something that you do consistently every single day that is reliable, that isn't going to be changing a lot. And the more consistently you can practice that, the more you're going to habituate it. And the more you're going to habituate it, the more you're going to crave it, and the more it's just going to come naturally to you. And the more you're going to succeed at all of these long-term goals you're trying to accomplish. Lastly, technique number 5, willpower workouts. So we're doing all of these techniques to sort of hack our brains and figure out, like, how do we make it so we don't need to use our willpower as much as we are. But at the end of the day, we're going to need to have a use for willpower at some point. When we are setting these habits, we need to have willpower. When we are starting to decide, I'm going to work for 15 minutes, we still need a degree of willpower to make that decision. So, how do we build up our willpower? There are 2 ways of doing this that I think work best. And the first one is meditation. The way we're going to meditate is very simple. All you're going to do is you're going to allocate 5 minutes for meditation. And you're going to sit down in a quiet place and just close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, you are going to focus on your breathing. You're going to inhale and you're going to exhale. And you're going to just do this for 5 minutes, set a timer, don't think about the time. All you're thinking about is inhaling and exhaling slowly. Now, as you are meditating, your mind is going to wander. You're going to think about the obligations you have for the day, some cute person that you met that day, right? Your mind is going to wander. And the key to this, the workout part of this, is you're going to take your mind and you're going to refocus it back on your breath. Just inhale and exhale. And that act of refocusing your mind back onto your breath is the key to the workout here. That is actually going to exercise the part of your mind that is associated with willpower, the prefrontal cortex. And the more consistently you can do this, and the more you practice this, the mightier your prefrontal cortex is going to be. It will literally become bigger and thicker and beefier, and you're going to have a greater willpower reserve that you can tap into for all of the things that you're trying to accomplish. Now keep in mind, it is like a muscle. It is always going to be a scarce resource. You will never come to a point where you just have unlimited willpower, which is why we need to have the other techniques at our disposal. But this is going to make you stronger. This is going to make you have a greater reservoir of willpower that you can tap into when you need it. The second technique is doing things that you're not accustomed to consistently. Typical example I have for this is every time that you open a door, you're going to open it with your non-dominant hand. You're going to just consistently behave in a way that is a little bit different from your routine. And then every time you have an urge to return to your routine, you're going to go, no, I'm going to do my new willpower workout exercise. I am going to do things in a slightly different way from the way I am accustomed. Now, only you can think of what exactly these things are going to be. And by the way, there can be some overlap here between setting your implementation intentions and your willpower workouts. Every time that you go, I am going to floss after I have brushed my teeth, that is going to be a willpower workout that is going to beef up your prefrontal cortex. So there's overlap here. There's synergy happening here. But I would recommend trying to think of a few additional workouts beyond just meditation, where you go, I am doing this specifically to practice doing things that are a little bit uncomfortable for my habits. All right, those were my 5 recommendations for you on how to improve your capacity to avoid procrastinating. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck. Have a good one.